Welcome to InTouch, dedicated to real estate professionals worldwide. We're here to educate you, entertain you, and empower you in all facets of real estate. Are you ready for the latest news, trends, and market updates? Then it's time to get in touch. Welcome back to the show. Today we are studying Rule 3 within 7 steps to Powerful Paychecks. We find ourselves in the midst of Step 1, which encompasses Rule 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it's all about the initial contact, i.e. prospecting. So today's rule is develop relationships daily. And if you've been in this business long enough, you know that developing relationships daily is essential for your long-term success. And why is that? Well, simply put, even if you're a referral agent, depending on your existing relationships to yield you referrals, well, market cycles happen. And for that reason, we believe you should always develop new relationships daily. Is it important to depend on your existing relationships to send you business? Of course it is. But through market cycles, there are periods and seasons where that business will dry up. So let's get started. I'm going to start today with a verse, and it says, "Wise words bring many benefits, and hard work brings rewards." Developing new relationships should be fun. It can be one of the most exciting things you do in your business. It's easy to stay in your comfort zone, only working with people you know, especially if your network is well connected in business. However, in order to grow your business to yield powerful paychecks, you will need to develop many relationships. And the way we look at it is this: all business comes from either new relationships or existing relationships. And new relationships are formed by contacting new people in your life daily, then following up properly and making appointments to develop your relationship with them. Our existing relationships are nurtured by staying in touch with the people that you already know, that like you and trust you, and letting those people know that you care. So we all know you must prospect to be successful. And prospecting should be thought of as nothing more than developing relationships with other people. And if you're not in the habit of developing relationships daily, you will need to become a better prospector. So Gary, I consider you a master prospector. I believe you understand the balance between new relationships and existing relationships. You've been in the business for a long time. You certainly have a great book of business. But I know you, and you get out of the house every day and you meet people and you consistently develop new relationships. And I believe that's why you've had the stability and long-term success in your business. So I want to hear from you. When you read this rule and you've spent a lot of time in the 7 steps method, what does this mean to you, and how do you divide in your mind the new relationships, the existing relationships, and your approach with prospecting towards both groups?
Well, thank you, Andrew, for the introduction. And yes, this happens to be my favorite topic because I love creating new relationships. It's not just a business theme. It is something that I try and do every day, whether it's on the phone or if it's in front of somebody. That's going to be one of the two things, right? Or in Zoom, whatever your form of communication is. But I still feel that, especially in the age of the AI, that you need to get outside, and hashtag get outside. You'll see that everywhere. You need to get out and start meeting people. And if you can't, and if you're too afraid to do that, well, then just go to the grocery store and bump into somebody there. You're going to meet somebody. But you need to go belly to belly with people and talk to them. Yeah, you can do it over the phone. You can go through your database and text somebody and have them, give you a phone call back and start, talking that way. But it's still best to meet people in person and create, relationships that way.
You're spot on, Gary. Face-to-face is the highest level of communication. There is no doubt. And one thing you're going to have to decide as a listener is what is your primary form of communication? If you're like Gary and it is face to face and you're able to get out there and meet people, that is the highest level of communication. However, if you need to follow up with people or you have a database that is too large to be meeting with face to face, then you're going to have to master the three primary forms of communication, which are written, narrative, audible, audio, and visual video. And there's plenty of methods and softwares and all these techniques and tools and technologies to help you. But at the end of the day, it's just a simple decision to make that you're going to carve out a piece of your day every day, time block, and do your prospecting. I like to do it before 12 noon because I know if the day gets away, most likely I'm not going to get it done. So I carve out 1 to 2 hours every single day, turn off everything. Phone has to go off. Computer can go off if it's going to distract me with emails. And I am going to prospect whatever that looks like and make sure I do it without distraction or interruption. Now, there's never been a better time in history with more options available to reach out and communicate with prospects. And we know with social media and the ability to scale your database or your sphere of influence, it's just a matter of making a decision that you're going to do it, set up a contact pattern, and stick to it. So, if you've never developed a contact pattern, I want to talk about that today because every successful business has a method of contacting its new potential clients or prospects and its existing clients on a consistent basis. And your goal should be to be extremely thorough as well as respectful when communicating with any potential client. So, Gary, tell us a little bit about your contact pattern method. How frequently do you reach out to your existing database? And when you do reach them, what's your follow up method?
Well, Andrew, I always start with the easy calls first. So I've got probably 5 or 6 people that I talk to every couple days, good friends, ex past clients, whatever. And I'll just call them and ask them, "Hey, how you doing? How's your week going?" And then as they talk to me, a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, well, what are you up to?" "Oh, well, I've got this listing. It's not getting a lot of showings, but it's a great investment property. Do you have anybody you know?" "Oh, yeah, well, I know this guy or that guy." So you start in with the people that you feel comfortable talking to, and then from there, um, take a look at your iPhone. Most people have an iPhone or whatever they're using for their daily phone calls. I've got thousands and thousands of names in my iPhone because even if I'm walking on the beach and I see somebody, I'm talking to them. Hey, because I like fishing now, I'll use that as an example. I'll see somebody walking or if actually fishing, and then I'll say, "Hey, what are you using for bait?" And they'll tell me, and all of a sudden they'll catch a fish and bring it in. I'll say, "Hey, can I take a picture?" "Great. I want to take a picture of you and your fish." "Great. I would love that." I take a picture. "What's your phone number?" I send it to them. Guess what? I just made a new contact. So it's pretty easy to do. I'm not afraid to do it, but you just need to figure out what is your best way or means to contact. Just like you said, Andrew, if is it the phone, is it going to Vaughn's, is it going to the mailbox, meeting your neighbors, functions, whatever it is, you need to do it daily, and you need to figure out what your best form of communication is.
I think a lot of people confuse this particular step as a skill and they feel they don't have the skills to do that. Or what am I going to say? I've already called them. I feel awkward. But this is a behavioral pattern more than anything else. This is a habitual, consistent pattern in your schedule to put you in the position to develop those relationships. I love your creativity. Some people may not be that bold to be able to walk up to a stranger on the beach and strike up a conversation. But if they're in real estate, they're in sales, this should come somewhat naturally to be able to develop a new relationship with a complete stranger daily. Now, we are big proponents of working primarily by referral, building an existing database and nurturing the database, taking care of the database, and that clientele referring you business. And I don't want to suggest that this method is different from what we preach and teach. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, market cycles will eventually dry up your business. There are going to be seasons and months, if not years, of the cycle in which your business just doesn't yield fruit. And so, what do you do during that cycle? Well, if you have not been developing those relationships daily and you have not incorporated at least a small percentage of your business with new relationships, you're going to need to get back on the bike. It's like riding a bike. You know how to do it, but it may have been a while since you've done it. And once you start doing it, it will all come back to you naturally. Now, if you're very systematic, you may need a plan, a very clear cut Monday, Wednesday, Friday type contact pattern with explicit instructions. I'm going to call this amount of people this day. I'm going to leave this amount of voicemails. I'm going to talk to this amount of people. And all those KPIs or key performance indicators, I think are very healthy. But I don't want you to get lost in the numbers. We're talking about relationships here. And relationships, especially the ones that stem organically from people that you're introduced to by other people that you know, those happen naturally and those will continue like a snowball to continue to grow and grow and grow as long as you're intentional with asking people for introductions and new relationships. So we like to say it like this, slow down to go fast. If you plan to contact people in whichever method you choose, face to face, phone, text, social media, whatever that is, and you choose 3 days a week, just allow a little bit of a period so you don't burn yourself out or burn them out, like Monday, Thursday, Saturday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in between the points of contact. That way you're not blowing people up and annoying them, but you're giving them space. You're reaching out, you're leaving your messages, you're following up. This is very key. You're not just a one and done, leave them a message and never call back. And then little by little, that organic relationship building starts. So I do have a call pattern specifically. If you listen to the narration of this day, we will publish that on the podcast. This is day 3. There's a very specific call pattern, and that is 3 times in one given day, meaning you might call somebody, send them a text, and follow up with an email, and you do it on 3 different days. So for those of you that like checklists and like very clear instructions, that is in the narration of day 3. A colleague of mine likes to say this: go for no. And there's a story that goes like this. A salesman joins a widget company full of experienced sales representatives. The new salesperson decides to use the concept of go for no within his sales prospecting methods. He sets a goal of 100 people saying no on a weekly basis. He goes door to door and makes call after call with a simple question. Hello, my name is so-and-so. I'm with so-and-so company selling so-and-so products. I would like to know if you'd be interested in purchasing one. And every time he'd get a no, he'd make a check on his list of 100. He became excited as more people said no and as he came closer to meeting his goal so that he could move on to something else. Well, the story finishes with the new salesman achieving his 100 weekly answers of no and soon becoming the number 1 salesperson in the office. The moral of the story is when you go for no, there's a yes right around the corner. So a lot of this is mindset. We'll talk a little bit more about the fear of rejection later in this episode and future episodes as we dive deeper into the 7 Steps program. But the number 1 reason that we've discovered people do not prospect on a consistent, regular basis is simply because they don't like the rejection. And if you can master your mindset, as we talked about in day 1, in rule 1, which is to take that positive mental attitude and know it's par for the course. Par for the course in our industry is some level of rejection. But if you can overcome that rejection like this salesperson did and simply think about, well, for every no I get, I am getting one step closer to a yes. Well, then you're going to set yourself up for success. Remember this, they are not rejecting you. They are simply rejecting the product or service that you offer at this time. And they may even be interested in the product or service that you offer, but just not at this time. So never take it personally. Now, Gary, you've been in this business going on 20 years. You have a charismatic personality, and you're funny, and people engage with you naturally. But that's a gift, and not everybody has that gift. And there's a lot of rude people, and I'm sure you encounter them, even though you have that gift of humor, that will hang up on you, that'll drop four-letter words on you, that don't want to be bothered by real estate professionals. How do you push forward on a daily basis, keeping that positive mental attitude?
Well, other than the obvious, reading your Bible and concentrating on God and what Jesus did in this world, I try not to let things bother me. And I just know that I'm here for a larger purpose. So getting a no is really not a big deal. And if you don't get any no's, that just means you're not doing anything. And and you probably need to get outside and start talking to people, or get on the phone and start talking to people. Rejection doesn't bother me. Like you said, I've been in this business for 20 years. So if I, let those things bother me, I would probably have no hair right now. I'd be bald. And so I just don't internalize what people say to me. I usually step back, and the best way to do that is, if you see a text or an email and it looks like it's going to upset you, you need to just step back, maybe wait an hour, and then go back to it. And more than likely, it's probably worked itself out by the time you've gone back to that email or text or person that has blown up that day. So don't let things bother you. Give it time, think about it, and then get back to the reality of, we're not doing brain surgery here, we're selling homes. So, people just need to calm down a little bit, and those problems will work themselves out. So, rejection is just another, it's a form of communication. You're going to get rejected, or you may not get rejected. Well, uh, so what? Move on. And if that person is going to be negative, then you probably need to move on anyway, because you don't need that in your life. There's plenty of positive people out there.
Very well said. Franklin D. Roosevelt once said, the only thing to fear is fear itself. And so when we take that mindset of, this is simply something that is preventing me from moving forward, a great acronym for fear is false expectations appearing real. And when you think about the number one thing that is holding you back from having the success that you desire, it is traditionally right in parallel with the amount of prospecting that you're doing, i.e., the amount of daily relationships that you are developing. If you are consistently developing relationships, and you are skilled at what you do, and you know how to do what you do in your business, well, then the only thing holding you back is the amount of relationships that you're developing, so that there are enough people that need your service at any given time to develop the paychecks that you desire. So, as we said earlier, never take it personal. If you are a person offering a product or service and they are not interested, they are not rejecting you. They are simply rejecting the product or service and the timing of that product or service. So now, moving forward, let's talk about the analogies that are out there, because this helps people psychologically when they begin their day. It can be a grind to go day after day thinking about prospecting and getting out there and having to develop these relationships. And visualization does help. There's a few analogies. Many of the coaches and trainers in our industry like to use the word farming, and they use the analogy of a farmer planting seeds and watching in due season those seeds produce a crop. And there's a curve to that. I do like that analogy, but there's a few others that I've heard that I can appreciate. And one is a treasure hunt. And so, for those of you that love a good treasure hunt or finding things that are lost, I want you to visualize within your prospecting. Imagine you're hunting for a pearl or a piece of gold. You are looking for something that has been buried, and it is your job to discover it. And how many people do you have to call or contact, meet with, speak to discover where that gold is? And the gold can be a listing for you, a transaction. It can be a new purchase, a new buyer, an investor, whatever that piece of gold is, whatever you're desiring to market towards, you are on a treasure hunt. So hopefully that will help you. Whatever analogy works best for you, the key is that it's something that drives you and motivates you. And then shift your mindset. Rather than thinking you are offering something that someone may or may not want, or that you may be disturbing somebody with your contact, choose to shift your mindset to believe that you are offering something of real value. And if the person is not interested, they may know someone who can benefit from what you offer. So remember this as you move forward with your initial contact and your development of relationships, is that you have value. You are offering something of sincere value to people. You're not bothering them. And if they don't want it, they can simply tell you. But don't lose the conversation there. Go ahead and ask them who else in their network, who else in their life may be interested in what you provide. Earlier in the episode, Gary, you mentioned that when you were talking to the gentleman on the beach, you had just caught a fish, you took a picture, you sent it to him, therefore gained his contact information. How do you follow up with people like that? And how do you bridge the conversation from fishing into real estate and prompt it with a call to action to refer you business?
Yeah, that's actually pretty easy because now that I've got their contact and now that I know they're interested in the, basically the same thing I'm interested in at that point is fishing. Could be tennis, right? Or it could be any action shot that you took of somebody. It's just a text back. Hey, how you doing? Uh, Caught any fish this last week? Well, what are you up to? Would you like to go to a beach and fish with me sometime? And there you go. They're going to respond back, and from there, usually the conversation will go, well, what do you do? Oh, well, that person may be retired. Oh, that's fantastic. I'd love to be retired. And then they'll say, well, what do you do? Well, I'm in real estate investing or whatever your line is going to be. And then from there, they're always going to ask you, oh my gosh, interest rates or housing market, or people are leaving California because that's where I am. So the conversation will just go from there. So it's actually really easy. Once you have their contact information, it's just a matter of following up.
And I know a lot of people struggle with what to say on the initial contact. And I like to say, identify yourself immediately when speaking with someone you've never met before and let them know right away the reason for your contact. Your situation a little bit different because you're meeting them in a recreational setting. But when you're calling somebody over the phone, for example, and they've never spoken with you, there's a good chance that unless you identify yourself very clearly and share the reason for your call, you are going to get hung up on in this day and age. Most people aren't even answering their phones. They're just letting it go to voicemail, which is very frustrating. And a lot of voicemails are full. And it's becoming harder and harder to reach out to people. People's attention span is becoming less and less. The adult attention span now is like 8 seconds. That doesn't give you much time for your elevator pitch. So when you do get people on the line, make it count and keep it real. Speaking to potential clients as if you're talking to a friend will help you gain acceptance from the person on the other end of the line. The more human and relatable you sound, the more someone can identify with you and be interested in hearing your pitch. The more scripted you are and more robotic you sound, the less enticing it is for someone to respond because they can sense the message is not genuine and lacks sincerity. And in this AI digital age we find ourselves in, where people are now mimicking voices and it sounds somewhat real, the authentic human voice, I believe, will have more and more value as we move forward because people have to discern, am I talking to a robot or am I talking to a human? And we all know the preference is a human. So identify yourself as a human. You are not talking to AI. That's sad that we're going to have to do that in the short years to come. But that's the reality of what's happening here. So developing relationships should be priority one in your day. Do not put off your prospecting until late in the day. Choose the time of the day when you have the most vigor. Use your freshest energy of the day and tackle the most challenging task at hand. For many of us, this will be the first thing in the morning when your mind is clear and your body is rested. But again, I'm going to advise you do not get distracted by meetings or emails or anything else. If you drink coffee, grab a fresh cup and knock out your calls or get out of the house, just like Gary suggested, and meet people. And once you've completed your prospecting, you can continue with your day knowing that you have taken care of the one task that will generate you income in the near future. So, Gary, let's continue to talk about this because you have that ability. And if we could impart that ability into others, they would be hyper successful. And the reason is because just by the sheer volume of relationships that they would develop by meeting people on a daily basis and nurturing their existing relationships on a daily basis, the odds are now in their favor. Doing transactions in our industry is not complicated. It does come with stress, it does have obstacles, but it's not complicated. The number one challenge for people is really the database of clients and having enough business at any given time. So, what are your final thoughts and conclusions as you reflect back on the way that you've developed your business and developing those relationships?
I'm finding, and just maybe some tips for newer agents or maybe agents just trying to find new relationships. Um, I really like to find something that I like to do, whatever it is. If you follow me on Instagram, you know some of the things that I like to do. But one of the things I love is collecting dive watches. So what do I do? Well, I went out and found a club in San Diego that people meet and they talk about watches, and not iPhone watches, but watches that you can actually wind and have a complication. Maybe they're made in Switzerland or wherever. But when you find something that you like and you find other people that like the same things that you like, typically the conversation is going to lead to what do you do? Um, and I had somebody walk up to me, this was last week, and said, uh, and this is a watch club. He said, "Oh, hey, my mother's coming into town. I know you sell real estate. I'm going to have her give you a call. She's going to need to buy something in the next 4 to 5 months." And he started breaking it down. She can pay up to 1.6 million. It's going to be mostly cash. So be prepared for her phone call. And then he went on to the next person. So is it that easy? No, no, it's not always that easy, but find something that you love to do. Find a club and find people that are attracted to the same things. And guess what? They're always going to ask you, what do you do? So it, I don't want to say it's easy. It does take time, and you do have to be genuine. So that would be number two: is be genuine, be yourself. Don't talk about what you do. Somebody will ask you. So that's kind of my tip of the day.
And it goes right back to the farming because you had sowed seeds on Instagram and attending those meetings, and that individual was clear what you do and how you do it. And when the time came up, all you had to do was show up because you had been sowing those seeds in the weeks and months prior. So great job. And that is the learning lesson is that calling somebody or meeting somebody at the exact time that they would need your product or service is highly unlikely. That's why you sow the seeds and let them know who you are, what you do. And so when that time comes, as you've been nurturing that relationship, they will think of you and keep your name top of mind when they refer you to others. Now, our paycheck principle number 3 is this: develop relationships daily to grow your cash flow. We're going to wrap up talking about character and talking about purpose, because your purpose will help you develop relationships daily. As you reflect on ways to grow your connections each day, consider how your purpose can help you master this rule. Without purpose, your pursuit can quickly become a burden. And a purpose statement puts in writing who you are as an individual or as an organization and for what purpose you exist. So remember, don't confuse this purpose statement with your vision or mission statement. As a recap, your vision statement is why you are doing what you are doing. Your mission statement is how you will achieve your vision. Your purpose statement is who you are and for what purpose you exist. So all those statements should be correlated, but essentially they should be different. And let me give you an example. Imagine you're a missionary with a special assignment from God. Your vision is to end spiritual poverty, and your mission is to share the gospel. Well, your purpose is developing relationships daily by spreading love and truth. So my challenge to you this week is, can you write your life purpose statement, your business purpose statement in one sentence? Not a long drawn paragraph. If you have to narrow it down just to one sentence, what would that be? Let's wrap up with the section I like to call Master Your BS, which is master your behavior and skills. And these are biblical references: choices, desires, decisions, results, and promises. Desire to never tell a lie. Choose to tell the truth. Decide to take control of what you say and secure your lips. The result is, if you love a clean heart and kind speech, you will have the King as a friend. The promise is, God takes joy in pure words. Here's some words of wisdom from the Bible. There is more hope for a fool than someone who speaks without thinking. And some questions to meditate on this week. Are you prospecting on a daily basis? When you reach someone, are they touched by your words? And is your truth the absolute truth? So help you God. And how would you describe your speech? And how would others describe your speech? And the call to action is simply prospect daily, guard your lips, and bless others with your words. Gary, as we conclude, I know you're a believing man. You have faith in Christ. You go out there daily with the faith that God will provide for your business. When you hear scripture like that, and I know you spend your own time in the Word, when you think about the relationships that come into your life, I don't believe they're by accident. I believe all relationships come into your life by appointment. And when you reflect back on the journey that you've had, the clients that you've attracted at the beginning of your career, middle of your career, now later stage into your career, do you believe that God strategically puts people into your life so that you can develop your character, help them obviously with a product or service, but essentially relationships, as we know, are so important to God? And how do you see those relationships now, 20 years down the road into your career?
Yes, the people that are left in my database and the ones that I've starred that are on my quick call list are relationships that turned into friendships. So they went from a client to a friend. And the friendships are long lasting and will always be there. Talked to a gentleman yesterday. It's actually a son of one of my clients. And I said, hey, I've got to come by your house this week. I've got a lockbox that's been on there and I can't get it off. I'm going to have to cut it off. And I said, I just wanted to let you know, don't call the police. I'm coming by to get my lockbox off that doesn't work anymore. And he said, and I said, I don't even need to knock on the door. And he goes, no, please knock on the door. I just love to talk to you. And by the way, I've got some other friends here that might want to talk to you too. And I said, okay, great. Uh, I will be by this week, and I'm looking forward to meeting you. I'll make sure that I knock on the door, and we'll have a time to chat. So those relationships are key, and they're friendships, and that's the goal, is to not just have clients, but make friendships.
And the final thought is this: if you find yourself as a transactional professional, today is the day to make a commitment to become a relational professional. We hope the message has blessed you, and we will catch up with you on the next episode.